Hello and welcome back to the BTF podcast. That is the number one podcast for people who probably should talk about something other than football. Today is June 21st, which is the longest day of the year. It's the summer solstice, and we are in the middle of Euro 2020, although it is 2021. We're in the middle of Euro 2020, and I think it has been a very good tournament so far. We have a podcast coming up today talking about that said tournament, and I'm joined by Mr. Greg TMR. Greg, how are you?
I'm good, thanks, Dan. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm all good. We're recording as a couple of games are playing out, so we'll be keeping one eye on those, but probably by the time this actually gets published, those games will be been and gone. But I think it's Netherlands and North Macedonia and Austria versus Ukraine is the two games on at the moment, and we're also joined by Mr. Nostal Jake Galligan. How are you, Jake?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Yep, all good. Tournament so far, right? This is like the first podcast, I guess, that we've done since the tournament actually began, which I think is like 11 days ago the tournament started now. I looked today at our Instagram to see how many days of predictions we've done, and it was like 11 days. So I think it's been a good tournament. I mean, what's initial thoughts on the tournament itself before we get to England?
You go, Jake, you go.
Well, yeah, you just said before we get to England. So the tournament itself, it's gone well. It's been eventful. We've obviously had a tragic moment, but out of that tragic moment, there's been a lot of positives come afterwards. You know, the sign of respect in that Denmark-Belgium game was like probably the most touching moment of the tournament so far. We've had a bit of controversy. We've had Rudiger taking a chunk out of Pogba's back. But apart from that, it's been good. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, like you say, that's probably the most controversial moment. A couple of red cards in there, but not anything too crazy or malicious. They've just been mistimed tackles. I mean, Krakowiak's red card against Slovakia was fairly innocuous, and then obviously you had Ethan Ampadu as well sent off against Italy last night, as we record at least, which I think again was one of those tackles that probably in the Premier League it's a 50-50. You might get sent off for it, but I think they're trying to crack down on stuff like that. Obviously, you mentioned the Christian Eriksen incident in the Denmark-Finland game, which I think was on like the second day of the tournament. Yeah. Truly horrific moment to watch, I think, for anyone watching, whether you're a football fan or not. It was harrowing, to be honest, to watch it, and we're lucky now, kind of 10 days on, that we can sit here and kind of talk about it, and you know, nothing too sinister or nothing, you know, there wasn't anything too horrific that came out of it. Obviously, Eriksen, I think, is to undergo surgery to put a sort of a defibrillator type thing in his chest. I can't remember it's not an IED, it's an IC intensive care unit.
No.
ICD maybe. But yeah, we're not medical doctors, as you can tell probably early on. But yeah, I mean, incredible medical support that he obviously received immediately on the pitch. There's a whole debate around the, in my opinion, incredibly poorly managed direction of the television coverage of it, and you know, how awful that was and broke every kind of code that we're used to seeing in this country. I mean, the thing that I say, I don't want to have a too much of a conversation about it, but you remember when Andre Gomez broke his leg, and those kind of incidents, when they happen, usually you just see it's just cut away, and this was the complete opposite, which was just horrible to watch.
Yeah. Well, if you compare it to, if you see a streaker on the pitch, they know to cut away straight away. Then, and you know,
and that's something we want to see.
Yeah,
yeah, I know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, luckily, if there's like a dog on the pitch or something, like they usually will show a dog on the pitch. And there was a pigeon on the pitch in a game recently. I think it was the Belgium game. There was a pigeon kicking about on the pitch the other day. So any kind of animals on the pitch, I want to see that. streakers.
Just to correct the record on Ericsson, he had a successful
This is
operation.
a great time to interject with some serious medical.
He's been I just wanted
about pigeons and streakers.
Yeah, no, I just wanted. I've just remembered now. He's been discharged because he had a successful operation to install it. So better news than we perhaps.
100%. I mean, in that 10-15 minutes was just like, I think most people. I heard that there's if you're medically trained, that there were some signs there that everything was probably better than maybe we thought. But if you're not medically trained and you see someone getting CPR or being shocked,
it's horrific to see.
Assume the very worst, and as soon as that photo was leaked of him leaving the pitch, kind of awake, that was on par with. I can't think what the other best moment of the tournament is. Sterling scoring maybe against Croatia was a good moment, but I think that Ericsson, when that photo came out of Ericsson, for me that was so far the moment of the tournament, because it was like, oh my god, this guy is actually awake, and that was a great thing. So the fact that he's been discharged from hospital is incredible, and Denmark of course play this evening in a must-win game. It's very I don't know what their chances of actually going through are, but probably 50% or less, I would think, based on the fact that they've obviously lost both of their games so far. I think everyone wants to see them go through. I wouldn't be wrong in assuming that, right?
Of course, yeah, of course.
And if they do go through, it will be one of the third place positions, which we're all kind of struggling to work out how that works, who those teams are going to be. We know that obviously Wales went through second place and Switzerland have taken a third place with 4 points. So at the moment, 4 points is the target to get. But obviously Denmark can only get 3. So they're in a tough position in the tournament. Who so far has which teams have impressed you, and also on the flip side, which teams do you think have just been nowhere near the pace that you thought they would be pre-tournament?
I won't mention the elephant in the room straight away. We'll leave that for a minute. I'll make my feelings clear enough when we get onto it. Italy are a problem. I know it's a controversial opinion. I know it's a hot take, but Italy are going to be a problem in this tournament. I've been very impressed with how they've been playing. I think I don't know, a sneaky little feeling about Wales. I think they could cause a few problems. I think I don't know, they're not going to go all the way, of course, but I think that the way they played together and the way that they held their own against Italy was very impressive. And I think that could be, in context of how highly I'm rating Italy at the moment. But I think Wales could upset a few people. Yeah.
What about you, Jake?
Anyone I agree.
Yeah.
Italy, number one team for me. Watching them was just so exciting. Especially after watching the dull England performances. I think it was the first game against Switzerland, wasn't it? Italy played.
It was Turkey that they played against.
Yeah, Turkey. Opening game.
Sorry, so it was the second game, and I was watching in the first half an hour. I was just like, if only England could play like this. It's really exciting. It was non-stop, bombing it from defense to attack in a matter of seconds, and so they've been most impressive. Obviously, I feel like the gap between the elite teams in Europe and the smaller teams in Europe is closing. You got teams like Czech Republic, Slovakia, which you would never have given any fighting chance in their groups. Even Hungary, they got a point against France. So I've been impressed by the smaller teams. They've really surprised me.
Yeah, I agree. I think Ukraine have been one of the teams that I've enjoyed watching. Obviously, we're not currently watching that game. We'll catch the second half of their final group game. But yeah, Wales going through, you mentioned, they play the first of the round of 16 games. So that is on Saturday, this coming Saturday. And it's the first game, so it's the 6 p.m. game, which actually, sorry, that will be 5 p.m. For Greenwich Mean Time, GMT. But yeah, they play second place in Group B, which is that group with Belgium, Russia, Finland, and Denmark. But yeah, I mean, I think they would fancy themselves against Russia, Finland, or Denmark, right?
Yeah.
You know,
of course, I don't see why not.
That's 3 winnable games, and it could quite easily end up being Finland that finished there if Finland were to get a win this evening. And of course, as this goes out, that's already played out, so let's not dwell too much on that. But I mean, yeah, Italy, I completely agree about it. Italy have been, for me, the best team so far. They're the first ever team to go 3 wins in the group stages with 3 clean sheets. It's never been done before. If we should mention records, I mentioned in the group chat yesterday that Xherdan Shaqiri was 1 goal away from being the first man to ever score a hat-trick in the World Cup and the Euros. And the manager went and substituted him like straight away, basically, as soon as I said it. Which
whatever. For anyone,
yeah,
I thought you were going to say for Switzerland.
No player has ever scored a hat trick in both tournaments, and
wow,
he has a World Cup hat trick, and he had 2 goals in a game that his team had a 2-goal lead.
Wow.
Obviously they're probably not thinking about the records, and at the time no one's going, this guy can become the first ever to do that. But I looked up the list and I was like, okay, surely like Platini scored a hat-trick in both, or Gerd Müller, or I don't know, Closer. Someone must have scored a hat-trick in both. There isn't a player that's done it in both.
Incredible.
So he would have been the first player, and they subbed him at 75 minutes. So yeah, I wonder if he noticed. Maybe they're hoping that he saves another hat trick for later on in the competition. If he wants to break that record.
I would have thought Ronaldo would have had that hat trick.
Yeah, Monaco. Yeah. I think if he scores a hat trick in the Euros, then he'll get it, and I wouldn't be surprised if he does. To be honest, because Ronaldo. But yeah, because he had that World Cup hat trick, didn't he, against Spain?
Yeah.
In 2018. So. Yeah, I'm sure that's a record that probably Ronaldo is going to want to set. There's probably less and less games where he's likely to get a hat-trick. Now, it would have been that first game against Hungary. Of course, he got 2 goals, but they were very late in the game. But my other team that I was going to say have impressed me is Germany. I really think Germany are in a great position now to kick on with this tournament. They've played... Now, the thing with Germany is that they've played Portugal and France. So they've had 2 crazy tests already.
I'd say the two tests that you could possibly get.
Yeah, the 2 best teams, and they've taken 3. They got 3 points out of that in the end, and they only lost by 1 goal.
And they weren't awful. They weren't awful against that France game.
They were good in the France game. So in terms of how they're set up now, they know who's playing well, who's not playing well, which position works, which position doesn't work. Goossens is killing it down the left side, and Kimmich has got this kind of free role where he's drifting in that sort of like defensive midfield spot just to the right and pulling strings there. And they know better than any other team right now where they're at, and they've just had a great win against Portugal. They've got this game against Hungary, which is not, as we know, that's not an easy fixture, but in comparison to the last 2 games, it's a winnable fixture for them. So I think that they go into the next round, possibly with 6 points, finishing second in their group, maybe behind France, but they could easily win their group as well. If Portugal and France ends up as a draw, then Germany win the group. So I think... for me, they're the team that I'm looking at thinking, hang on, they're in a really good position. And Timo Werner's not really been used yet. Sane has been used kind of sparingly. Sula, Goretzka, they only came into the team in that last game quite late on. So they have got depth in that squad that I think a lot of people seem to write them off that they didn't have any depth. So yeah, I think Germany quietly taking over. Germany, Italy, it's kind of usual suspects type thing. They're good tournament teams. Classically kind of got winning mentalities, great management systems there as well. I really like the touch from Mancini in the Wales game to bring Sirigu on in the last couple of minutes. Interestingly, they have got another goalkeeper. I was looking it up today. I can't remember his name. I want to say, I'm not going to guess it. It's something like Maybell, but it might not be that. But it's something like that. But it'd be interesting if he finds a space in a game to bring him on as well, because apparently Mancini went to the World Cup in 1990 and wasn't used, and it was one of his biggest regrets as a player that he never got to. I think he never got to play in a World Cup, even though he was at Italia 90, but he was an unused squad member. So
At Donnarumma, while we're doing Italy stats, so he's
incredible stats.
So he's 22, isn't he? He's been their number one since he was 19. Do you know that he's never conceded more than one goal in a game when he's played for Italy?
Yeah, which is insane.
Incredible.
Insane.
Incredible.
He's quality, but I think I could keep that record with that Italian defense in front of me.
Yeah, this is true.
Yeah, it's probably the one, if we're going to look at cracks in that Italian team, the injury to Chiellini, huge.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, like last night, they were protecting Bonucci. They took him off at half time. Understandably, you don't. If you pick up an injury to Bonucci, I think they are in some serious trouble. Acerbi looked there is quite a drop off, I think, in quality when you go from Bonucci and Chiellini to the backup centre backs that they got, albeit good players. But I think they've got, if you're looking at FIFA kind of stats with it, it's like 287s that they have as their starters, and then it drops off to like 82s, 81s. So, yeah, I think Bonucci staying fit is very, very important for them. But just like you say, a joy to watch. Fast, intense team. Just, look like a really good squad mentality there as well. Should we talk about England? Because we probably got quite a lot to say, so we might as well start talking about them. Now, I will actually start by saying, because we mentioned Donnarumma and goalkeeping, I do think Jordan Pickford's been good. I think Jordan Pickford's been arguably, across the two games, he's probably been our best, most consistent player. I don't think he's made a mistake yet.
Mm-hmm.
Can we agree on that?
I can, yeah. He's actually played our pass of the tournament as well. Probably the only pass I can recall where we've took a long ball and it's actually paid off. He came out his box and he set could have been Sterling, it could have been Rashford when he came on. I can't remember who it went through to, but that was
in the
moment.
Croatia game?
No, it was in the Scotland game.
Scotland game, okay.
Yeah, he's been our most consistent player. He's not really had too much to do. And as a Liverpool fan, I'm not his biggest fan, especially after the Van Dijk incident. But I like him in an England shirt, and he's a good leader at the back as well. Like, he's quite vocal to the defence, and he seems quite organised.
Yeah, I have to agree. He's not had a lot to come against. Obviously, Croatia didn't cause too many problems for us. But that Scotland game, if it wasn't for his save, we're 1-0 down.
Mm-hmm.
Simple as that. And I don't see us getting a goal in that game.
Yeah.
Even if we were 1-0 down after 30 minutes, was it? Something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't. It's hard to know where to actually even to start really at the moment with England. I think I'll sort of prefix all of this then with, obviously we've got the group chat and we've had the BTF group chat going for the whole tournament, and we're when England have played, we talk about the performance, and it's been, I would say, like an 80-20 split probably of I don't think people are necessarily anti-England, but like people disappointed with England in the 80%, and then 20% of optimism there, I think, still, and trying to be optimistic about the performances or the way that we're kind of going. And I think that's important. I think that has been important to have that 20% split. It might even be a 90-10, to be honest. And there's only 9 people in the group. So, no, but it's important, I think, to have that, because I think otherwise it probably could have just slid into a complete, Southgate bashing, which I personally don't think is too unjust at this point. I mean, if we start on the Croatia game, it got crazy. Like the pundits after, if I'm just talking about like the BBC studio after that game, and even the celebrations at full time, it was if we'd won the group with 9 points,
Mhm.
or it was and maybe that was the thinking at the time. Maybe they thought, oh, we're just going to roll over Scotland, we're going to roll over Czech Republic. That is 9 points, but there was some significant like back patting at full time in after the 1-0 against Croatia, which I thought was a bad performance. I watched it and I thought it was a really bad performance. Greg, I'll throw over to you.
I think that there's an element of context for either side of the argument that is needed, in that one game doesn't make the tournament, in that a result doesn't mean anything. I mean, Spain lost their first game when they won, things like that come into play. And it was a good result. The performance was not good. And that is a problem that we have. You look at some of the players on that pitch, Raheem Sterling, bar from the goal, I don't think he had a great day at all. Harry Kane as well. We'll come on to him as we get more of an overall picture of the last two games. The performances weren't that great in the game, save for Calvin Phillips maybe. But that's okay because it is the opening game of a tournament. You've got, 15 players in this squad that are making their debut at a major tournament. That's fine. We dust it off. A win is very important in that context. So everyone can walk away from that and be like, brilliant. Okay, that's good. You now need to start seeing progress. The good teams will keep getting better. The momentum will grow. We're seeing it with Italy. We're seeing it with Wales, even as I bring back to my earlier point. I'll come back. Maybe, Jake, I'll let you jump in before I move too quickly onto the Scotland game. What was your thoughts on the Croatia game?
Well, to be honest, I think this, as Dan said, the credits at the end of the game, we seem to be, the plaudits we got were a bit extreme. But it was Croatia. They are World Cup finalists. So obviously, we only really saw that Croatia aren't a very good team when they dropped points against Czech Republic. And I feel like when we come out of that with the first group game win, which is something, I think we hadn't done it for like 9 games or whatever. Won, the opening game of the
ever.
First in a Euros ever, yeah.
In a Euros, it was first
so
time ever.
There was relief that we actually won, relief that we beat the best team in the group on paper alongside us. So there was a lot to celebrate, but the performance, as Dan said, I think it was a 5 out of 10, just a bang average performance. And we've been blessed with quite an easy group, and we should be using this to our advantage by experimenting, finding out what this best lineup is, instead of sticking with this team which hasn't got enough creativity in it. So as I said, 5 out of 10. I'd like to see us mix things up against Czech Republic.
Yeah, so I mean, sorry, Greg, I know you sort of gave way to Jake, and then I butted in here.
No, go on.
I do think, like, the reason I mentioned that, the way that, I'm saying the studio. I'll just stick with the studio. I won't go for all football media, But I think it was Ferdinand, Lampard, Lineker, and one other, Shearer in the studio. I think that reaction and that elation played into the way that we approached the Scotland game, because that team, everyone went, "Oh, you were amazing, guys! You just brilliant! Like, the country loves you!" And it was so hot, and you did so well to play well for 20 minutes and then get a 1-0 win after all of that, and well done, guys. And then I think that played into it, because Southgate then went, well, I can't, I'm not going to drop these guys that have played so amazing. I'm not going to drop Foden. I'm not going to drop Sterling. I'm not going to drop Kane. I'm going to play Rice and Phillips again, and Mason Mount. I don't have a backup for Mason Mount, so I have to play Mason Mount whatever happens, because no one else really plays that central position or can sort of tie it all together. So I think the fact that no one really seemed to acknowledge that there were quite a few kind of just problems with the Croatia game, and so we went into the Scotland game with just, okay, same system, pretty much the same team. We'll swap the fullbacks, which didn't really need to happen. I thought maybe Kyle Walker had a poor game in the Croatia game, but Trippier certainly had a good game. But then I do understand that, if you 2 games in a row play a right back at left back, you're kind of probably not doing great things for the morale of Luke Shaw and Ben Chilwell. But then if you're setting yourself up for that problem, then you shouldn't have fucking played a right back at left back in the first game in the beginning. So, if you force yourself into having to change positions that didn't necessarily need changing because you've made a weird decision to play Trippier, and I get the reasoning of, Trippier is a safer option to protect maybe Tyrone Mings, who's not used to playing at England, and the idea, I think, was that Trippier, being a right-footed player, would drop in more and give more protection to Mings, and I get all of that. But I just don't think we needed to necessarily change things up at fullback in this next game. It needed to be in other positions. So, yeah, the Scotland game, I was so excited for that game. I mean, I don't think anyone wasn't excited going into that game. It was a huge game. The weather was, I think the weather kind of set it up quite nicely. It was this, rainy, I don't know whether it's thunder and lightning, but, a wet pitch, Wembley, Friday night. Like, it should have been an absolute blockbuster of a game. And what did we get, Greg?
We got nothing really performance-wise. And it's important to say that we're not doing this to take away anything from Scotland. That isn't what I'm arguing at all, really. I've got nothing to say on the Scotland performance because I've got plenty to say on the England performance. We didn't make life difficult for them at all, really. We hit the post with John Stones early on, of course, but really we didn't make life too difficult for them. And look, I go back to context of this. A draw and 1 point within a tournament and a group stage, it's not the end of the world. It's not a bad thing. But this game, England-Scotland, is always, no matter what, bigger than the tournament. The tournament almost, for fans, gets left to one side for a minute. It's England versus Scotland. You had Scotland fans coming down at 7:30, getting pissed up in Hyde Park. It's beyond that. It's an international derby at that point. And the performance we got is a real telltale sign of the lack that these players showed for me, the lack of passion for that fixture. At half time, there must have been a talk of point's all right here. A point could be okay here. Because we didn't attack. We didn't look like we wanted to win that game. We didn't look like we had any kind of care for the occasion that it is, despite for one time this season being fans in the stadium at Wembley. It was such a lackluster performance. And that's what worries me, and that's what I go back to, is that Scotland didn't cause any problems for us, and we didn't cause any for them. The good teams in this tournament are only going to get better with momentum. And you could say that we're being harsh on England after the Croatia game. Dan and I were certainly a bit more reserved in our plaudits for them. You have to critique a team based on the aspirations, and it's clear that within this England camp, the aspirations are to win it. Harry Kane has come out before this competition and said, if I never win anything for England, I'll be really disappointed. It'll be a failure for my international career. Phil Foden came out yesterday, saying, if we win it, I've convinced all the lads to dye their hair. The bookies, I know that doesn't really mean a lot in the grand scheme of things, but you look at the players that we have on this squad, a few of them were playing in a Champions League final only a couple of weeks ago. You have to base the critique on the aspirations of the team, and they're not living up to that at the moment. And it's all well and good doing a performance like that against Scotland, where they'll settle for a point as well. If you come up against any team that this means something to, this competition, you're stuffed.
Yeah, I think that's where it worries. Yeah, that's what worries me, is that we don't. I mean, maybe we do know, and that's that's been one of the main arguments, is that it's just we got 4 points from 2 games. Like, what are you worried about? But I'm worried that we have no idea what we're going to be like when we come up against France or Portugal, or France, Portugal, and Germany. Like probably one of those teams. If that's also arrogantly assuming that we're going to beat Czech Republic tomorrow.
Right, exactly.
Like, the sheer arrogance that we've played so shit in 2 games, probably a combined rating in those 2 games of 9, maybe for me at tops, is 6 and a 3 out of 20, so 9 out of 20 for our performances so far. And then arrogantly go, oh well, we're gonna beat Czech Republic tomorrow. What have we seen so far that means that we're going to beat them? And I think if we draw to them, they have scored more goals than us, so they will win the group.
Which would be quite ideal for us.
Yeah,
but it won't, because that's not the point. I've said this before the tournament. You cannot trust this team. You cannot. I'm going to say his name now. You cannot trust Gareth Southgate to play this. We'll play the groups to cheat strategically, because then when we're in the knockouts, we'll be brilliant. We're not. We've struggled through this group so far, save for tomorrow's performance. I hope I say all of this. I hope he proves me wrong. But we've seen enough of Southgate that everyone in England is looking at him and saying, right, you need to make changes in this team. If we can say it on a podcast on YouTube, then how is the man at the helm not looking at that team and saying, right, okay, you need to take this one out. You need to take this one out. You need to go. We need something new going on in this team. Because I guarantee we'll get through this group with whatever points. We might beat Czech Republic tomorrow. We might get a draw against them. They're not a bad team. They've proven that they're decent already so far,
and they won't be scared. Have them. They won't be scared.
They won't be scared. They'll be looking at us and our performance, going, "Yeah, we could have a good go at these." And I guarantee, if we come up against, no disrespect to the teams that we've faced so far, but a France, a Portugal, we'll get found out, and we will go out of this competition with a whimper. If we're 2-0 down against Portugal, do you see these boys walking around the pitch saying, "Right, okay, we're going to at least get one. We're going to go out with our heads held high"? No, we will go out with a whimper, and it will be Southgate's fault because he cannot make those difficult decisions. I'm on one now, lads. He could not leave. He had 4 right backs to choose from in a 26-man squad. Everyone on Twitter was discussing, who is he going to leave at home? Who? Oh, well, and good discussions, some of them. Like, okay, well, Alexander-Arnold's got this attribute, so we could use him in this kind of thing. He took all 4 of them. He cannot make difficult decisions. Jesse Lingard, who he did leave at home, as soon as the question was posed to him, okay, why that decision? The man looked like he was going to break down in tears and said, oh no, but he is going to start tomorrow's game against Romania. He's not going to the tournament. Don't play him. Have some courage and leave him out and play a different system. So if we get an injury to a big player, we've tried this one in the friendlies. We can try that out.
Yeah.
I feel like I triggered that rant by saying that it would be ideal for us to get second. I'll rephrase that. It would be ideal for the path. It'll be ideal for the path to the final, but it would not be ideal for us to have that mentality, especially the Southgate team.
I looked at it yesterday, and actually all it does is it offsets meeting Group F for one round. So actually, if we come second in the group, I think we play in Copenhagen against maybe someone from Spain, Sweden, Slovakia group, and then after that we play in the quarterfinal, which will be in I think it's in St. Petersburg against probably the winner of Group F, which looks like it's going to be Germany at this point. And they play the winner of Group F, I think, then plays third place in one of the best third place teams. So there's no way that we necessarily can avoid playing Group F. So I do think winning our group gives us the best chance of beating one of those teams, because we would then play them at Wembley in the round of 16. And then that would then set us up for Rome in the quarterfinal, which we would probably play Spain, the winner of Spain's group. It might not be Spain, but we'll play potentially Spain. But yeah, I think all of that kind of group fixing stuff that we kind of played that game, didn't we, a little bit at the 2018 World Cup, and we got the nicer route to the semi-final where we then just got spanked. Well, we didn't get spanked. We lost in extra time, but we lost at the end of the day.
We won a lot.
Was that? Yeah, we were 1-0 up after 2 minutes or whatever it was with Trippier's free kick. That brings me on then. So Trippier, this game tomorrow, assuming that potentially, Southgate gives in, which I feel like he probably thinks he's giving in to pressure and actually starts Jack Grealish, who is going to win a lot of free kicks. That's something that we know Jack Grealish is going to do. I think in the Scotland game, he played like 20 minutes. I think he drew 4 fouls. He had 100% dribbling completion. He, I think it was like 87, 90 pass accuracy. Grealish is going to win us free kicks. And traditionally at tournaments in recent years, at least under Southgate, we've been very much a set piece heavy team. So does Trippier start at right back, presumably, or do you start him at left back maybe against Czech Republic tomorrow? Jake, I'll come to you with that one. And if not, do we have someone else that can equally provide the magic when it comes to set pieces?
As you said, with Grealish, if Grealish does play, then that's a tactic we can completely exploit, because Grealish, not only does he draw a lot of fouls, but he actually drives at teams, and he'll cause problems, which will then win us corners. And Trippier has got a brilliant delivery on him. Whether or not he would be on corners, I'm not too sure if he took corners in that first game.
I think Mason Mount took a lot of the corners, actually, yeah.
Well, Trippier as a right back is, we know he's solid. He got into the La Liga Team of the Year, won La Liga. I think I'd rather see Kyle Walker, though, just because his physical attributes, we were lacking pace and strength down that right-hand side against Scotland. I don't know why he went with Reece James when it's not like Scotland have a threatening left wing. Sure, Robertson's good at getting forward, but Robertson was never going to get forward like he does for Liverpool. So I feel like in a game where we need to go out and prove a point, we want to have Kyle Walker bombing up and down that right-hand side.
Yeah, and to strengthen that point about Kyle Walker playing at right back is who I think right in these systems now, right wing and right back and left wing, left back are so important. In the synergy between those players is so important. And why, if you're going to play Foden at right wing, why would you not play Kyle Walker, his club teammate, at right back behind him? Because they're going to have the most minutes played together. I don't know for sure, because maybe someone will pull out a stat of England under 18s or England under 21s where Foden and James might have played a load of games together, but I don't think James and Foden would have possibly ever played together before, and to do that at a tournament against very good defenders in terms of Robertson and Tierney in there as well, and McTominay kind of covering across for both too. That is a tough task. And to be fair, we should, I think Greg said it, but we really can't write off how good Scotland were on the day, and actually how good the Scottish, I think there are holes in that Scotland squad, and there are players in there that you say, okay, they probably would struggle to get into most Premier League teams, but there's also a very good core of players in that team. Gilmour, of course, was like Xavi running the show in the middle. Best midfielder on the pitch, which says a lot, doesn't it, when we have Declan Rice and Calvin Phillips and Mason Mount on the pitch. But yeah, Gilmour kind of played the position that we severely lacked. And I think it is this double pivot thing that we're playing, or that worked so well in the Croatia game, seemed to kind of trip us up in the Scotland game. I think there wasn't a Modric. Oh, I say there wasn't a Modric. There was Billy Gilmour on the pitch who played kind of like Modric, but there wasn't an assignment, I think, for Calvin Phillips like he had in the first game. And then that ended up meaning that Calvin Phillips had a bit more time, a bit more space, and he almost didn't know what to do with the ball. And Declan Rice seemed to have a particularly negative game, maybe. Just like there wasn't a lot of forward progression through those two, and that's where I look at Italy and the way Italy are playing in this tournament, and they instantly, it goes out from it bypasses Jorginho most of the time. Jorginho's just there as a kind of a fail safe. If there's no other option, they'll go through the midfield. But generally, with Italy, you see it just goes from the centre backs out to the fullbacks or the wingers, and they're through. They just bypass the midfield straight away. England against Scotland, we would go into Phillips or Rice, and it was just going back. It was just going back to Mings, going back to Stones, going across to Reece James, going back over to Mings. And it's just, if you're playing against inferior teams, they are just going to park the bus. And if you don't have that intensity, that forward progression straight away, these teams just set up in two banks of four, and England just can't break them down. We didn't have enough creative players, and that's where a Jack Grealish is good against those teams, because he drives in, he wins fouls, he wins free kicks, and then you're playing a set piece game, which is completely different, and you can drill yourself on set pieces. But England just had none of those answers at the time, and I hope that this has been a good week for Southgate at St George's Park. Is it that what it's called?
They've moved down to Spurs training ground.
Oh, they're at Spurs now, leaving Soldham a week's vacation down there. But yeah, I mean, I hope that is something that they're looking at, and that Neil in the group always says Southgate's a pragmatic manager, and these are some of the problems that he needs to be solving this week, and we can't just we can't have another two performances like we've had. There needs to be changes this week, and I guess we could probably come on to what we all think the setup should be tomorrow. Greg, I'll come to you on that. What are you thinking?
Well, whatever team he plays, only Southgate will ever know why. I don't agree with this pragmatism approach or anything like that. He used 2 substitutes in that Scotland game out of possible 5. That's not a man that wants to change what's going on or make a difference.
Grealish and Rashford.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And took Foden and Harry Kane off. Like I don't Harry Kane. Yeah, okay, and that's a different thing. And Harry Kane worries me. I don't know if he finished the season fit, but he doesn't look fit. There looks like there's something wrong. I don't know, but he's not looking sharp, or there's something wrong. And I think that it comes down to Southgate as well. And, you can make the argument of the players, they're Premier League footballers, they don't have to they shouldn't have to be told to get up for an occasion like this. But also that is what a manager is there for. And, I don't trust Southgate with that. And this whole Sancho issue of Sancho not even playing, not even getting any minutes. He's going to move. If he moves to Manchester United at the end of next season, we're going to look back on Sancho's season and say, how the fuck did he not play any minutes at the Euros? I can guarantee Southgate doesn't watch any Bundesliga. You can just tell. I don't, but I know how good Sancho is. And I looked at that game and was like, probably need a bit of Sancho going on here, boys. I don't know what he'll play. I don't really. I mean, you alluded to it earlier, Dan. That Scotland game, the last thing people were thinking was, oh yeah, fullbacks. Apart from that, all good. There were a lot of arguments going on for different kind of positions. For me, I don't know. I don't really know, to be honest. I think maybe Maguire makes an appearance because he's a big name, and that will take some of the headlines that Southgate doesn't want going in the other direction against him. But I imagine it will be the same team, really, because we're not in a luxurious position to be able to rest players anymore, because we still do need the points. I think you cannot go into that game and think 4 points is enough for our aspirations of what they need to be. Harry Kane, he's already come out and said, Southgate has said that Harry Kane will be starting. Sterling will be starting. Jake, you go from there, because I've lost my train of thought on the formation.
I'd like to see him mix it up. I think we need to go with a back 5 or a back 3 with 2 wing backs. As Greg said, Maguire, I think he would bring a bit of, just a bit of leadership in the back. The midfield, I'd like to see Bellingham or Henderson, or potentially both of them play. I feel like I'm not going to lie and say that I know much about Bellingham. I don't really watch Bundesliga. I watch the highlights on YouTube, and I watched him in the Champions League. But I know that he offers something different. Henderson can do the job of Rice and Phillips, but also you've got to realise that he's captained a team to win in the Premier League, win in the Champions League. And he's, over the last couple of years, his range of passing has, it's increased dramatically. Whereas I don't think Rice has played a pass further than 15 yards. So I'd like to see just any change in midfield. In terms of up front, I think we need to stick with Kane. I think it would cause too many problems if we if we dropped him now, we need to get behind him. He is the World Cup Golden Boot winner, Premier League Golden Boot, and most assists. So he's not there for no reason. He's there because he's world class. So I'd go along with, ideally, I'd like to have Kane. I'd drop Sterling, have Grealish and Foden. Mix up the holding midfield and have Mount just behind them.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think you make a good. I'll go through my lineup in a second. I think you make a good point about Henderson needing to play and Henderson being a leader. And actually, this is probably one of the problems, especially in the Scotland game, I think, is that there's a lack of leadership on the pitch. Because we're lacking Maguire, who is a natural leader. We don't have Henderson, who again is someone that can lead on the pitch and can motivate players. And Harry Kane is the captain, but we know that Kane is more of a lead by example type player. And of course, when he plays at Spurs, he's got the French captain Hugo Lloris at the back. You've got Højbjerg in the middle as well, sort of organising things, and there's a lot of vocal players I think in that Spurs team that allow Kane to be kind of one of those more honorary type captains. I think sometimes it is you give the best player the captaincy to keep him at the club for a little bit longer, and I think maybe that's what Spurs perhaps have done. But yeah, I do think. And I'm not saying that it's the captaincy that's weighing on Kane's shoulders and that's why he's not playing well. I think personally, the Eriksen situation has probably had just as much effect on Kane as any other isolated, cause of his bad form. But yeah, I probably would start him. I've seen people kind of like slagging off Dominic Calvert-Lewin this week and saying like, how dare you suggest that you drop Harry Kane and play Dominic Calvert-Lewin instead. Calvert-Lewin would do a great job for us. I would like, in many ways, I would like to see Calvert-Lewin start, but I don't think that's the right decision, because Harry Kane is Harry Kane, and I think the problems are bigger than Harry Kane at the moment. I think it's that the system is not actually providing anything for Harry Kane. So, I think we need to change things around him first before we drop Harry Kane. If he has a terrible game against Czech Republic, then albeit drop him. Well. Yeah, drop him for our last game of the tournament in the round of 16. But I would go with Pickford. I would also go with 3 at the back, and I would actually play Kyle Walker in that 3. I would play Kyle Walker, John Stones, Harry Maguire. So Kyle Walker on the right, John Stones probably in the middle, and Harry Maguire on the left. Or is Maguire right-sided centre back? I think it is that. I think it would be that way round. Maguire plays on the left side. Then I would go with. I mean, we haven't seen him at this tournament yet, but either Chilwell or Shaw on the left. Possibly go with Luke Shaw on the left, and then in front of him either Grealish or Rashford. But I think I would like to see Jack Grealish start. And then on the right side, in that right wing back, again, probably because I'm starting Kyle Walker at one of the centre-back positions, I'll go with Reece James. And then I'm not sure that Foden should play. I would play Jadon Sancho. I would give him the chance. Presumably he's going to be very, very hungry to impress. He's got 0 minutes under his belt, 2 games into a major tournament where the previous 2 seasons he's put up ridiculous numbers in terms of goals and assists. I think double figures in both. He's got something to prove, and I think playing him out there would be good. And I don't think Foden's been as impressive as was certainly not as impressive as we thought he would be. He hit the post obviously early on against Croatia, which was a great opportunity, and that was a well-worked set piece from a throw-in. But I certainly don't think he's undroppable, so I would actually put Sancho in there, and then Harry Kane, and then it only leaves 2 more positions, and this is where I don't think he would make too many changes in the one game. So ideally I would go, okay, you play Bellingham and Rice, and then you basically drop Mason Mount. So you have a 2-man midfield, 3 up top, and then the 5 across the back. I think he'd stick with Rice, and I could see him possibly. I think he would just stick with Rice and Mount, but I would like to see Rice and Bellingham, just because I think Jude Bellingham's got a bit more box to box about him than Calvin Phillips. Of course, we saw Calvin Phillips pushing forward, and he got the assist for the Sterling goal, the one goal that we've scored at this tournament so far. But yeah, I think Bellingham's got a little bit more of a box to box mentality. Obviously, he's got a lot of energy. He's like basically a child. So yeah, that would be my formation. So to go back through that again, I've got Pickford, then Walker, Maguire, Stones, James and Shaw, then Declan Rice and Mason Mount in the middle, and then I'll go Sancho, Kane and Grealish across the top. But personally, I think that Southgate will probably make like one change, and it'll be
Maguire
it'll be
out of
Pickford
position
for Henderson or something like that. And Henderson's gone home, I think, injured. So
yeah,
it'll be something like that.
It'll be something to do with the fullbacks, most likely.
yeah.
Me,
man.
I think what you were saying, Dan, about Foden, I feel like he's looked one of our most dangerous players, and he's had a lot of praise. For me, I've been quite disappointed with him, but maybe that's just not him as a player. This is just the fact that he's playing with an England team, which he's just not used to playing with.
Yeah.
He doesn't have De Bruyne behind him, which, you know, I'd bag 10 goals a season if I had De Bruyne behind me. I'm pretty sure of that. You got Harry Kane. He's not used to playing with an out-and-out striker. You know, City, the way City move up top, they kind of like drop deep and then the interchange positions. So I feel like Foden's potential is not being used. Sterling has a bit more experience in the England team, and yeah, he got our decisive goal, but same thing again. I think we need to change things up because we're not going to get far playing like this. We need to shape up the attack. Sancho, Grealish, like you said.
And this is the thing, how can we be this far into Southgate's tenure and we're still not working out how he can manage to win a game against the Czech Republic when we should be looking at winning the tournament, when we should be looking at achieving this and that. All the things, you're completely correct, Jake, and all these things of Foden's not playing in the right systems. Like, all of that points to the manager. He doesn't know what the fuck he's doing with these brilliant players. And sorry to go back. You're right, John. How's it going, boy? Sorry to go back farther than we need to. But it's exactly what you're saying, Dan, about what the best route and the easiest route would be in this competition. I don't want an easy route. I want us to face a France or a Portugal or Germany in the round of 16. And if we're going to get found out, let's get found out early on so we can get kicked out of the competition with a whimper like we will. We won't have this World Cup fallacy of, semi-final, semi-finalists, sharp, semi-finalists, got to the semi-final. We need to go out crashing in this tournament because we will at any point because of the way we're playing. And then we need to reassess for the next World Cup, which is only, 18 months away or something like that. We cannot live off this fallacy of, well, if we come third in the group, we could play Spain or Poland. They're not looking great. So if we get through them, then we can face this team. And then we don't play Portugal until this. I've had enough of it with this guy. You cannot be trusted with this group of players because they are elite players playing for elite clubs and in finals and winners. And everything we've discussed today is absolutely right. But the man that makes the difference isn't getting it right. And that's the problem.
Yeah, well, I'll use this point to welcome John Miller to the podcast. He's joined us for the rundown, I guess, at the end here. John, I'm going to throw you in the deep end and ask what your starting lineup would be tomorrow against the Czech Republic. Oh, wait, you're muted, I think, maybe. I can't hear you. Headphones maybe not plugged in.
That's better. Headphones not plugged in.
There we go.
I think you should go back to the team that started, but what I would do is just not have two holding midfielders, either Declan Rice or Phillips. Of the two, I think Phillips has actually done better. That's just my opinion from what I've seen. So I'd drop Declan Rice, maybe an unpopular opinion, and then go for someone in there with a bit more dynamism, maybe You know, if it was me, I'd go for Jude Bellingham. But if it's Southgate, he's probably going to put Mount in there, and then play Grealish through the middle or something like that. That's probably more likely what he would do, because they're the players he seems to trust. You know, he's started the 2 games, and they're the players he's gone with. So yeah, I can see that he's not gonna go for a Bellingham. He's probably more likely to go for like a Mount.
Yeah. Would you change Sterling or Foden at all as well?
Oh yeah, to be fair, forgot about those guys. I think Foden should keep his place. I don't think he's done too much wrong. I don't think he's being played in the right. He's not in the right system, but I still think he's got the magic that can do something. But Sterling, I mean, yeah, he's got the goal, but his overall play. I mean, I think in the group, one of you guys sent a TikTok of, you know, somebody like ripping Sterling and sort of just running around in a circle and not just laying it off for James to just do what he's been doing all season for Chelsea, and just put it on the button for, you know, Kane or someone to header in. And yeah, that's what you get from Sterling. Obviously, as well, he doesn't have the likes of Aguero, you know, and Bernardo and all those guys, sort of, who maybe he might respect a bit more. And there is an element of that in football. Those of you that do play, that's just sort of, it just happens psychologically. So he probably feels, well, I'm the big cheese here. You know, if I've got the goal as well, you know, I need to make something happen. And he's just spinning around like Kylie Minogue, you know, and he's just not. Yeah, I'd probably drop Sterling, to be fair, and yeah, get. Yeah, I mean Sancho. I mean, in German papers, I'm sure you guys have seen that some German outlets have said, "Wow, England squad must be amazing if, you know, Sancho's not had any game time." And, you know, I mean, that's an odd one. It's an odd one. I guess it goes back to you know, Greg T.M.R's comments about Southgate. You know, you want to give him the benefit of the doubt. You're looking at the players, you're getting enthusiastic, but then if he's picking the wrong players or the wrong system, then it's just not going to work.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very interesting one, and I think the, you know, Sancho not playing is just as much of a surprise, I think, as Bellingham not getting really any minutes either. I know he did have a bit of a cameo against Croatia, but Greg, I think it was, made the point that we only used 2 subs against Scotland. And you think of the squad depth that we've got, and this rare opportunity that you get to make 5 substitutions across 3 times or whatever, is quite a rare thing. And you would think, if you looked at all the teams in the tournament and went, okay, who's got potentially the most squad depth, we're probably in the top 3 or 4 teams. Before the tournament, at least, we would have been in the top 3 or 4 teams. I mean, we've seen everyone in the Italy team looks up for it, so I think they're above us now in terms of squad depth, because they've got guys that can clearly handle the pressure of the tournament. But, you know, you would think that the 5 substitutions thing is a must 100%. For England, and that's where I think, just because we're not starting Foden doesn't mean that we don't still get the magic. And maybe you could say that that's the reasoning he's using for putting Jack Grealish on the bench, is that he wants Grealish as an impact player, or he wants. But, you know, I just think these players that he has trust in and stuff, like, they can still play in these games, but he has to just. I think there's and it's the first time I felt it, because I've never been anti Southgate at all. I've always thought he's actually done a pretty good job. Of my lifetime, England managers, none of them have been particularly impressive. I was too young to appreciate Terry Venables. You know, Venables probably in my lifetime is the most successful England manager, and then he left for some silly reason that no one ever really knew. You know, but I've never been anti Southgate. That's my point, and I am starting to see a bit of just stubbornness, maybe, and I don't know whether it was because he was part of the media and he feels like he doesn't want to he doesn't want to be seen as still part of the media, or he doesn't want to be seen as being pressured into making decisions. But if everyone is saying something, there is probably some truth in that, and everyone's saying, "Fucking start Jack Grealish, you idiot." And he's just sat there and going, no. You're not there in training every day. You don't know what's going on. Like, you know, and I do think there is a stubbornness or an ego that he just needs to check a little bit at the moment. And I don't know what his support staff are like and whether he's got a lot of yes men around him or what. But I am starting to consider having doubts about Mr. Southgate.
Well, you look at everything that we've mentioned in the podcast, it isn't out of just an anger and outright hatred for the man. It's out of frustration that he's got an arsenal of all these players that you can look at. And all of us here, as I said earlier, we're a YouTube podcast, but we're able to sit here and think, all right, okay, in this strategy, Jack Grealish works, so we can use him in this. It's the frustration of he's got these players here. He's got this arsenal of players. And he's just belligerent and just not using them for whatever reason, out of, I don't know, fear or out of he doesn't want to upset people or is this people pleaser. And, you know, he is a yes man, and that is partially why the FA appointed him, but that is a different discussion for a different day that people do have. And that is it. It's the frustration of you've got these players, this incredible squad, and you're not using it when you could be and you should be.
Is Saka still in the squad?
I was just thinking that. Yeah, I was literally just thinking.
I would like to see
Saka could come on, and you know, you want players that are going to make things happen
for sure.
Yeah.
Not just play it safe.
Saka, he could come off the bench, couldn't he? You know, as Dan was saying before, we've got 5 substitutes, and we failed to use more than 2 in our last game. Whereas Italy last night, they used all 5. Yeah. And the commentator said, and this is Italy's 5th substitute. And then I was just like, why aren't we doing this? We do have the depth. We are one of the most well-balanced teams in terms of strength and depth, and we've got it. And we've got these exciting players: Saka, Grealish, Sancho, you know, Rashford. They could all have come on and made an impact.
And there's nothing. Sorry, go on, Dan.
I was going to say, to add to that is that I might be wrong, but I don't think Southgate's made a sub before like the 60th, 70th minute or something like that. I think
they're always
the
late,
earliest that he's made subs.
Yeah, Kane should have come off way earlier.
Yeah.
And for Dominic Calvert-Lewin, not
for Rashford.
Put on Rashford, who
a winger.
Sorry, he's not known for like rising like a salmon and nodding it down or even nodding it in. And then you start whipping crosses in.
Exactly.
You know, you start doing high balls, and you can see him getting out jumped by the Scottish defence. And I'm like, so what's the directive here now that you've, he said after the game, he said in his press conference, I wanted some sort of pace in behind, but we weren't getting him behind. We weren't getting him behind the whole game. So yes, fine. Kane could have played the whole game because he is going to, challenge and win headers. But if you've made that decision, which was probably the right decision, you do a like for like sub in that situation.
Yeah.
Like maybe someone who's going to do the job that Kane was doing, but maybe better, or maybe with a bit more energy because he's only going to come and play 12 minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
It's Dominic Calvert-Lewin. It's not Marcus Rashford.
Oh, Rashford. Yeah. Well, that's it. I'm just thinking, like, if I would like to see if things aren't going well at half time, if we're 0-0, 1-0 down is probably slightly different because he's more likely to make a change. But if we're, do you know what? Actually, I think if we're 0-0, he's probably just going to stick it out and hope for a draw tomorrow.
Yeah, because that way we finish. Do we finish?
We finish second in the group if we get a draw. By my calculations, because I think they've scored more goals than us.
Yeah, they have.
We've only got 1 goal,
which is the easy route, isn't it? Because it's a Sweden.
Slightly easier, but
I'm looking over there because I've got a wall chart.
Yeah,
you got it.
But you look at Roberto Martinez against Denmark. What did he do? 45 minutes, half time, plays his trump card, brings on Kevin De Bruyne, and they go on and win that game 2-1 in the end. But I just think Southgate is often too late in. Grealish could have come on a lot earlier in the Scotland game as well. 55 minutes, 50 minutes, whatever. Like, it's just not 73 or whatever he came on.
I can see if he continues with the way he is, and there's no evidence to say he's going to change, we will go out on penalties because we'll get through to the next round. It will be a sort of stalemate maybe because obviously he's pragmatic, so he'll probably go with 2 holding midfielders for the next round because it's a knockout, right? He'll probably be pragmatic, try not to lose the game. He won't go for it. He'll go for penalties, and then it's like, unlucky he went out on penalties.
Mhm.
Really, you could have actually won the game if you'd have been more brave.
Yeah.
Also on the sub things, I think that there's nothing wrong. I think it's one of the healthiest things in football is that you want some players. I mean, some positions are different than others. Harry Kane is one of those that you need one moment for him to score a goal. But a lot of positions on that pitch, you kind of want them looking over their shoulder of, if I'm not playing well here, I'm getting yanked off, and he could come on and score the goal that makes a difference. You need a bit of jeopardy in the squad. I think that one of the worst things is these players getting complacent, thinking, Sterling, for example, I'm starting that next game. Doesn't really matter for me. You kind of need them to be looking over their shoulder and thinking, all right, I need to create something here or do something to show that I'm worth playing. And I feel I don't get that vibe from this squad. As we're saying, like, it's an incredibly talented 26 men that we've got out there. I don't see Sterling looking over his shoulder, Mount at the moment, particularly Rice. I don't think any of them are thinking, I need to find something here, pull it out of my arse because he's going to rank me off because of what we're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the two before this tournament that we would have classed as undroppable was Kane and Rice. And actually, I think both of them are debatable now at the moment, like as to whether they should start the Czech Republic game. And yeah, I mean, I think there probably is slightly like an assumption that you can't, like John said about dropping, maybe just playing Phillips and not having Rice in there. I think that's fine. I think because he plays. I'm just trying to think. In the Leeds system, they have Click, don't they? The Polish guy, and he plays more of a slightly further forward, probably similar to like a Henderson type role, and then Phillips sits deeper. But I think, the thing is, it is very hard to compare that Leeds team to any way that England are going to set up, because Leeds don't stop moving and all of that stuff. But I certainly think, Phillips probably could play that role on his own. And it might, if one of them is there, if you only got one of them, then they don't have the option to pass to each other, and they might actually have to pass the ball forward. I think that was kind of one of the problems against Scotland, is they were both always available, and neither of them ever wanted to give the ball away, so it was just passing to one another, and that's what kind of killed our game quite a lot, or let Scotland just get back and set
just
up
very cautious. I feel like what you were saying before, nobody really wants to take the risk because they don't want to get hounded if they misplace too many.
You don't want to be the mug that sends England out of the tournament.
Right now, it kind of seems like everyone just wants to pull out a 6 out of 10. That's enough for me to play the next game. I'm not going to take too many risks. And unfortunately, that's not going to get us very far.
Yeah. Yeah. But otherwise, it's been a good tournament. John, your thoughts on the tournament anyway, because we didn't get those at the start of the pod.
Yeah, no, it's been good. It's been fantastic. I mean, watching the Ukraine-Austria game now, I did started off watching the Netherlands game, but this game is way more lively, very end to end. Obviously, winner takes all, right? Looks like there's another goal in the Netherlands game that's just coming up on my screen now. Another tap.
Wijnaldum.
But yeah, no, it's been great. Some surprises. Obviously, we didn't know when we did our sort of, predictions and, pre-tournament chit chat. No one really really with conviction or with chest kind of say, Italy. But now,
sorry to interrupt you. There's been an update in the camp from the FA. So as a precaution at this time and in consultation with Public Health England, Ben Chilwell and Mason Mount are isolating after interaction with Scotland player Billy Gilmore on Friday's match. The pair will be kept away from the rest of the England players and wider support team, pending further discussions with Public Health England. The entire squad had lateral flow tests on Monday afternoon and all were again negative, as was the case with Sunday's UEFA pre-match PCR tests. We'll continue to follow all COVID-19 protocols and the UEFA testing regime while remaining in close contact with Public Health England.
So was that Chilwell and who?
Mount. Which is, of course, overriding message is hope Mount and Gilmore and Chilwell are okay. Then on the flip side, that's going to force Southgate to make changes. And does that open up an opportunity for either Foden or Grealish to play in the middle where Mount has been playing? Because Mount, along with, like I said, Rice and Kane, has been an undroppable force in that team. So if he's isolating now, I think you can pretty much rule him out of the game tomorrow because he won't be part of any of the prep and etc. etc. So yeah, maybe we see Grealish in the middle.
Yeah, you know, and,
I'd be up for
and
that.
Sancho, yeah, Grealish and Sancho coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I'd definitely up for that. It'll probably go Grealish and Rashford, but I'm scared is not the right word. Sorry, for want of a better word. That Sancho's not going to get any minutes in this tournament. England are going to go out before he's even had a chance to put his stamp on the tournament or anything like that. So I just think if players that Southgate trusts, I think just kind of linking back to your question about the tournament so far, I think it's been great, but I just think England has just been a bit
stale.
Went in, yeah, you just wanted a bit more, and sometimes you think, okay, we're in this Premier League and it's a great league, but then it never translates to the national team. And I'm just thinking, is it because of the amount of foreigners? Is it the foreigners that are making the Premier League great? And because you've got some of those players, are playing at seem to be playing at a much higher level, higher tempo than our guys, or are our guys just handicapped by Southgate in the system? I don't know, but overall, just kind of linking the two together, yeah, I think it's been great. I'm seeing Ronaldo, breaking records, it's great. Seeing players such as like Alaba, just quality. So many quality players on show in 99 or 95% of the matches. So it's just I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, I think it's been a great tournament so far. Good refereeing as well. No real controversial moments. Obviously, the tragic thing with Ericsson, which we talked about that a bit earlier on in the podcast. But
VAR has been dealt with beautifully, I think.
Yeah, VAR has been very swift. And,
very impressive.
It
just shows the lack of quality in referees and VAR we've got.
Yeah, I think it's just a trust and a confidence thing with the referees as well. I think in this tournament they just seem to have, like, the VAR official has just made a decision based on his first thoughts, which I think is, if a referee sees a slow motion replay, they should be able to judge that fairly objectively at the time, and yeah, and then I think they've been a bit more smart with the way they've done the offsides and stuff like that as well. They've sort of done it, then told us whether it's offside, and then they wait like 2 minutes or so and they get a good angle and they show us the line like way after, instead of the Premier League thing of like showing us like drawing the line and the controversy of that and stuff. So yeah, hopefully there'll be some good takeaways from the way that this tournament's been officiated and the way they've used video to referee it. I think what we'll do is round this podcast off. We will be posting our predictions tomorrow for the England game. We're posting predictions for every single game at the moment on our Instagram and Twitter. So if you want to place a bet and you trust any of us particularly, I wouldn't personally, but you can do that. Usually about an hour before every game we'll put our predictions up. But yeah, we'll see how England go. We'll have another podcast coming out on either Thursday or Friday during the 2 rest days of the tournament, and then we'll be ready to go again on Saturday, 5 o'clock on Saturday. Wales obviously open up the round of 16 fixtures, which we will look forward to that. But yeah, I guess until then we won't really know how to feel about England. But we're going to go off and watch the rest of the games that are on today. And that leaves me to just say thanks to Jake. Thanks for joining us today, Jake.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Greg.
Loved it. It's been good therapy. Bit of therapy for me.
That's it. Yeah, it's good to share. And then very briefly, of course, but very nice to have you here, Mr. John Miller, as well. So yeah, we will we'll see you all on the next podcast. Enjoy the football. Bye bye.